The sky was heavy with clouds, matching the weight in Lily's heart as she walked the empty roadside alone. Barely 16, an orphan with no home, she clutched the fraying straps of her backpack. Everything she owned fit inside. Her shoes were worn, her jacket too thin for the wind, but her spirit, it still had flickers of light left in it. She had just left another rejected job interview. Too young, too inexperienced, too invisible. But still, she believed in kindness, believed that helping others was a way to stay human in a world that often wasn't. So when she saw the luxury black car parked on the shoulder with a flat tire, she didn't hesitate. A woman in her 30s stood beside it, frustrated and on the phone, heels clicking angrily against the pavement. Lily approached slowly, holding up her hands to show she meant no harm. "Need help?" she asked, voice soft, but steady, hoping not to be turned away again. The woman looked her up and down with confusion, this girl in torn jeans and wind-battered hair offering help to a CEO. But desperation won. Her driver was late, her meeting was urgent. She nodded silently, and Lily dropped her bag, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. Years in foster homes had taught Lily things: how to fix what's broken, how to hold in tears, how to keep going. She replaced the tire with surprising skill. The CEO watched her. There was something about this girl's eyes. A strength carved from pain, a kindness too rare. When Lily handed her the wrench and said, "All done," the woman managed a small smile. But just as she turned to thank her, her eyes caught something that made her freeze. On Lily's finger. A small, delicate silver ring, unmistakable in its design. The CEO's heart skipped a beat. Her throat tightened as a wave of emotion crashed over her. She reached forward slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "Where did you get this ring?" Lily blinked, confused by the sudden change. "I've had it for as long as I can remember," she said. "The orphanage said it was left with me," with a note that said, "She is not forgotten." The woman's eyes filled with tears, as her knees nearly gave out. That ring, she had it made 18 years ago, for the daughter she had lost, for the baby she was forced to give up under pressure and heartbreak, the baby she never stopped searching for. She looked at Lily again, really looked, the same eyes, the same chin, the way she clenched her jaw when nervous. She couldn't breathe. Her voice cracked. "Lily. Is your name Lily?" The girl nodded, puzzled. "Yeah." "Why?" The CEO's tears fell freely now. "Because that's the name I gave my daughter. The one I was told died at birth." Silence wrapped around them, thick and trembling. The wind howled. The clouds above finally opened up, as if the sky, too, had been holding back tears. And in the middle of a lonely road, two souls that had been torn apart by time and fate stood inches away from healing everything. Lily had never known a lullaby, never felt the warmth of a mother's hug. She grew up learning to comfort herself in cold beds, with silent tears under broken ceilings. Every birthday passed like a regular day. No cake, no gifts, just a whispered wish to no one. The only thing she ever had from her past was that ring. Simple, worn, but full of mystery. A piece of a puzzle she never thought she'd complete. She would often stare at it in the dark, pretending it was her connection to someone out there who once loved her. Despite life's harshness, Lily was pure. She didn't steal, didn't curse the world, didn't hate the families that rejected her again and again. She still believed in good people, in random kindness, even when she had none left for herself. Even now, with blistered feet and an empty stomach, she helped the woman with the flat tire. Not for a reward, not for recognition, just because it was the right thing to do. That was the beauty of Lily. She gave, even when no one ever gave to her. The CEO, Jennifer, watched this young girl, her rough hands, her careful tone, her calm under pressure. It struck her how someone so broken by the world could still carry herself with such quiet grace. And then, to find that ring on her finger, It shattered something inside her. The ring was never supposed to survive. Jennifer had been forced to give Lily up by powerful people who didn't want the scandal of an unwed teenage mother. But she had sent that ring with her, her final whisper of love, hoping someday it might lead them back to each other. Now here was Lily, standing before her like a mirror of everything she'd once lost. So kind, so brave, so unaware of the truth she carried every day without knowing. Jennifer's heart ached, not just for herself, but for the innocence stolen from the daughter she never got to raise. The sadness in Lily's eyes wasn't from bitterness. It was the sadness of someone who'd hoped too long without return. She never asked for pity, never demanded anything from anyone. Yet in her silence, she screamed the loudest, every wound carried with quiet dignity. Jennifer wanted to reach out, to hold her, to explain everything. But how do you tell someone you're the reason for their pain? How do you ask forgiveness from someone who doesn't even know you've wronged them? And worse, what if it's too late? Yet in that moment, there was something unbreakable in Lily's gaze, an innocence that had survived against all odds. And in Jennifer's trembling hands was a chance to make that innocence finally feel safe and seen. Jennifer sat in her luxury car that night, engine off, hands gripping the wheel. The mansion she once called home felt hollow now, its golden walls echoing nothing but regret. She had built an empire, gained everything, but tonight she realized she had lost more than she ever knew. The girl she had abandoned had grown up without safety, without comfort, without a mother's hand to hold. All for what? Reputation? Pride? A boardroom of strangers who applauded her silence? She suddenly hated those choices, hated the cowardice behind her success. Jennifer remembered the day they took Lily away. The hospital was quiet, and her own mother had stood by coldly, signing the adoption papers with no emotion. They told her it was for the best, that she was too young, that dreams couldn't survive with a baby in her arms. But now, years later, Jennifer knew better. It wasn't love that gave her up. It was fear. And fear had robbed 2 lives of a bond that should have been unbreakable. Seeing the ring on Lily's finger felt like a slap from the past. That tiny symbol she once slipped into the baby's blanket. Her only act of rebellion, her only whisper of hope. She had prayed once that it would find its way back. And somehow, it had. Lily's kindness wasn't learned from wealth or privilege. It was born from pain, and yet it never turned cruel. She had every reason to hate the world, but she chose compassion instead. It humbled Jennifer to her core. In that girl, she saw the mother she could have been, the one who would have raised a fighter, a dreamer, a light in dark places. Instead, she'd buried herself in board meetings, empty awards, and scripted speeches. None of it mattered anymore. Not when her own daughter was out there, alone, thinking no one ever wanted her. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep. She stared at the city skyline and thought of Lily walking the streets alone, with that ring on her finger, and she made a vow. No more. Silence, no more pretending. She would make things right. Her assistant tried to remind her of the quarterly meeting in the morning. Jennifer canceled it without hesitation. She had a daughter to find, and this time, she wouldn't let anyone stop her. She drafted a letter, handwritten, trembling with emotion. It wasn't for business. It wasn't formal. It was human. Every word carried her sorrow, her truth, and a desperate hope that Lily might one day forgive her. She didn't want to reclaim a daughter out of guilt. She wanted to earn her trust, slowly, gently, honestly. And, if she couldn't, she'd at least give Lily the truth, the one thing she was always owed. For the first time in years, Jennifer felt small, not in a bad way, but in a way that made her feel real. Success had made her feel untouchable, but love reminded her how deeply human she still was. The rain started to fall as Lily walked away from the roadside, her worn shoes soaked through. She didn't glance back at the car. Why would she? No one ever stayed. But behind her, Jennifer sat, motionless, heartbreaking in real time. Jennifer opened the car door and stepped out into the storm, uncaring of her heels sinking into mud. "Wait," she called out, her voice trembling, not from cold, but from years of buried guilt. Lily stopped, her body stiff, her hand slowly tightening around the tiny wrench she still held. Jennifer held up her hands like someone approaching a wounded animal, cautious, full of regret. "I know you don't know me, but I know you," she said, voice cracking. "My name is Jennifer, and I think I might be your mother." The words hung in the rain-soaked air like a lightning bolt between them. Lily's eyes widened, her breath caught in her throat as time seemed to freeze. She blinked, stunned. "What did you just say?" Jennifer pulled a necklace from her coat. Pocket, a simple chain with a tiny matching ring. "I left this in your blanket the day they took you," she whispered. "It was all I could give you. All they let me leave behind." Lily stared at the ring in Jennifer's shaking hand. Then, down at her own, identical, same shape, same tiny inscription on the inside. Her fingers trembled as she instinctively covered the ring on her own hand. Her whole world shattered in that instant, not from pain, but from too many emotions colliding. "Why now?" she choked out, eyes glassy. "Why after all these years?" Jennifer couldn't hold back her tears anymore. "I was scared. I let them convince me I couldn't be a mother. But not a single day passed without me thinking of you." The vulnerability in her voice cracked something deep inside Lily. There, in the rain, a CEO and an orphan stood as equals, both broken by the same choice, but one was ready to make it right, and the other still didn't know if she could trust. Again. Silence hung between them. Raw, fragile, waiting to be filled with truth. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. "I used to dream someone would come back for me. But when they never did, I stopped hoping." Jennifer stepped forward, each move slow, deliberate. "Then let me be the first to stay." Lily didn't fall into her arms. She didn't cry like in the movies. She just stood there, rain pouring. Down her face, too overwhelmed to move. But her eyes screamed the truth her heart wasn't ready to speak. Jennifer pulled off her coat and gently placed it over Lily's shoulders. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was the first time someone had protected her from the cold. They stood like that for what felt like forever, silent, soaked, unsure. But in that moment, something shifted between them. Not a reunion, but a beginning. Later, that night, Jennifer sat alone in her luxury apartment, staring at a picture of Lily as a baby. She hadn't protected her then, but now the fire in her chest wouldn't let her rest. She made one silent promise. No one will ever hurt her again. Not on my watch. The next morning, Jennifer drove to the shelter where Lily stayed. She walked in with zero hesitation, passing rows of rusted bunk beds and tired eyes. When she saw Lily asleep in the corner cot, something in her heart broke again. She knelt beside her, gently brushing the tangled hair from her face. Lily stirred, blinking up with confusion that turned into cautious awareness. "You came back," she whispered, like it was something she never expected. Jennifer smiled softly. "I told you I'm not leaving, and I meant it." She stood up and held out her hand. "Come with me. You deserve better than this." But Lily hesitated, her pride and fear clawing at her ribs. "You don't owe me anything," Lily said, her voice trembling. "I didn't help you yesterday because I wanted something. I did it because it was right." Jennifer's heart swelled. "Exactly. And now it's my turn to do what's right." Lily finally stood, clutching a small, worn backpack. She followed Jennifer through the shelter doors, 1,000 doubts flooding her mind. But deep down, something solid was growing. Maybe she really is different. At Jennifer's home, Lily paused. At the threshold, unsure if she truly belonged, Jennifer looked back at her. This house isn't complete without you. It was more than an offer. It was a vow. Over the next few days, Jennifer didn't just give Lily a bed. She gave her clothes that fit, food that warmed her belly, and space to breathe. And every small act was her silent way of saying, "You are safe now." When Lily started school, Jennifer insisted on driving her every morning. She waited outside the building each day, no matter how long it took. Because for the first time in Lily's life, someone showed up and stayed. One day, Jennifer found Lily crying in her room after a classmate mocked her past. Without a word, Jennifer knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "They can say what they want," she whispered, "but you are not what you've been through." Jennifer began working on a foundation to support foster youth, naming it after Lily's birth name. She poured her resources, connections, and passion into making it real. Because protecting Lily didn't stop with her, it had to reach the ones still waiting. When a local journalist tried to twist Lily's story for headlines, Jennifer intervened. She called a press conference, stood beside Lily, and told the real story. "No child should grow up believing they are disposable," she declared. And when reporters asked why she cared so deeply, Jennifer answered with fire in her eyes, "Because I failed her once. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure no one else does." That moment didn't just protect Lily. It gave her back her dignity. One night, Lily had a nightmare. She woke up screaming, heart pounding. Jennifer ran into the room, sat beside her, and pulled her into her arms. "Shh, you're safe. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." That wasn't just comfort. It was armor. It was love wrapped in steel. Jennifer had turned her guilt into strength, and her regrets into action. She wasn't perfect, but she was relentless. Day by day, Lily began to trust. Not just Jennifer, but herself. She walked taller, spoke louder, laughed more, because someone believed in her before she could believe in herself. And Jennifer? She had transformed too, from a high-rise CEO into something far more powerful, a mother who would fight mountains to protect her child. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the city streets. Jennifer and Lily were walking home after an ordinary day, except nothing felt ordinary anymore. A figure stood under a streetlight ahead, half hidden in the shadows, and their heart rate spiked. As they approached, Jennifer's instincts screamed that something was wrong. She reached out subtly, touching Lily's arm to signal caution. Lily's eyes darted nervously toward the figure, but Jennifer was already moving into protective mode. "Do you need something?" Jennifer's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. The man, tall and ragged, stepped forward, his eyes focused on Lily. "I'm looking for someone," he said, his voice low, ominous. Jennifer instantly stood between them, her back straight, and her posture defensive. "I don't think you are, and I don't think you should be talking to her." Lily's breath caught in her throat, but Jennifer's presence steadied her. She wasn't going to back down. The stranger's gaze turned to Jennifer, his eyes narrowing. "You don't know who I am," he muttered, almost as if trying to find the right words. "I know exactly who you are," Jennifer replied, her voice unwavering, her hand subtly resting on her phone, ready to call for help. A dangerous pause settled between them. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then the man smirked, looking Jennifer up and down, sizing her up. "You think you can protect her? You can't. You're not enough." The words hit Jennifer like a slap, but she refused to show it. She wasn't just fighting for her daughter's safety. She was fighting for her own redemption. The weight of her failures, of years lost, pressed on her chest, but it fueled the fire within her. "We'll see about that," Jennifer said, her voice harder now. Her eyes flickered to Lily, who was now clinging to her side, wide-eyed but trusting. In this moment, Jennifer wasn't just a CEO. She wasn't just a woman with money and influence. She was a mother, and she would protect Lily at all costs. The man took a step forward, closing the distance between them, his body language predatory. Jennifer didn't flinch. She stayed rooted like a tree, unyielding. Lily was trembling now, and Jennifer could feel it, the fear that still clung to her. But not anymore. Then, before the man could make another move, Jennifer's phone rang loudly, breaking the tense moment. It was the private security detail she had hired after the threats started. They had been tracking her, knowing she was in danger, ready to intervene when the time came. The man paused, realizing something had changed. Jennifer wasn't just a helpless woman with a past. She had resources, and she had learned to use them. Before he could react, the security detail was there, surrounding him, forcing him to back off. "You'll regret this," he hissed, but the words were hollow. Jennifer stood tall, her body tense with adrenaline, but her mind calm. "Go home. You've lost," she said, her voice cold but laced with a finality he couldn't ignore. As the man disappeared into the night, Jennifer turned to Lily, her eyes softening. The streets around them felt quieter now, the danger having passed, but the weight of the moment lingered. Lily clung to her side, her body trembling, but there was something else in her eyes now, something that hadn't been there before. "Are you okay?" Jennifer asked softly, kneeling down to look her in the eyes. Lily nodded, though her hands shook. I'm scared, Mom. What if they come back?" Jennifer pulled her close, holding her tight, the protective instinct surging through her. "They won't. And even if they do," Jennifer said, her voice fierce and full of conviction, "I'll make sure you're safe." Lily stared up at her, still unsure, but the weight of Jennifer's words hung in the air. "You are safe. You always will be." Over the next few weeks, Jennifer couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every corner they turned, every street they crossed. She felt eyes on her, but every time the fear crept in, she reminded herself, "No one is going to hurt my family again." She doubled down on her security measures, ensuring no detail was overlooked. She installed better locks, hired extra surveillance, and made sure the staff at her office were trained for emergency situations. And yet, despite her best efforts, the sense of being hunted never fully faded. Then, one afternoon, Lily came home early from school, her face pale and eyes wide with panic. "Mom!" she cried, rushing into Jennifer's arms. "Someone followed me today. They were in the parking lot when I left school." Jennifer's heart stopped, but she quickly composed herself. She brushed a hand over Lily's hair, trying to comfort her, but her mind raced. "I'm going to take care of this," she said, her tone firm. She called the authorities, but deep down, she knew that her next steps had to be different. She couldn't rely on anyone else. Not this time. Lily needed her to be more than just a mother. She needed her to be a warrior. Jennifer enlisted the help of a private investigator, someone who had worked for her family years ago. She dug into every single detail, every contact. The man who had threatened them had, and every shadow lurking near their lives. Every night she stayed up late, piecing together the puzzle, tracking his movements, identifying his associates, narrowing down the threat. Days turned into a blur, the adrenaline and fear mixing into something raw and relentless. Then, one day, a breakthrough came. She discovered the true identity of the man who had been stalking them. Not just a stranger, but someone connected to her past. A former business partner who had been seeking revenge for a deal gone wrong. Jennifer's determination burned hotter. Now, she would confront him herself. No more running, no more hiding. With Lily by her side, they were unstoppable. The final days leading up to Jennifer's confrontation with the man who had been stalking them were filled with uncertainty. But one thing was clear. She was no longer the scared, helpless woman who had once been paralyzed by fear. She was determined, empowered by the knowledge that she had the ability to protect her daughter and herself. The phone rang in the quiet of her office late one evening. The investigator's voice came through, calm yet urgent. "I've got him. He's at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. We've tracked his movements. It's time to end this." Jennifer knew what she had to do. She couldn't risk waiting any longer. The threat was too real, and Lily's safety was non-negotiable. She wasn't just a mother, she was a lioness. She was prepared to face whatever was coming, no matter the cost. "I'm going," she said, her voice steady. She hung up the phone and stood tall, a new resolve taking root in her heart. She was no longer the woman afraid to walk the streets. She was someone who faced danger head-on, with no fear in her heart, only clarity. Lily, who had been in the next room, came rushing in as soon as she heard Jennifer's voice. "Mom, you're going, aren't you?" she asked, her tone a mixture of concern and hope. Jennifer knelt down in front of her daughter, taking her hands into her own. "I'm going to make sure we're safe, Lily. I promise you." She looked into her daughter's eyes, her gaze firm yet filled with love. "No one is going to hurt us again," Lily's eyes filled with a quiet understanding. Despite her fear, she trusted her mother more than anything in the world. "Be careful," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jennifer smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I will. I love you." With one last kiss, Jennifer left the house, her heart racing but her mind clear. She drove toward the warehouse, each mile feeling like a step toward closure. The city streets seemed to stretch endlessly in front of her, but Jennifer had no intention of looking back. When she arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. She parked her car a distance away and approached on foot, her senses heightened. She had trained for this moment in her mind, knew every detail she needed to navigate. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was her reclamation. As she moved through the shadows, she heard voices. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to remain calm. She didn't know how it would go, but she knew that she was ready. She would stand up for herself, for Lily, for everything they had been through. She had the strength now, not just in her muscles, but in her mind and heart. When she stepped into the warehouse, her eyes quickly adjusted to the dim light. There he was, the man who had once been a trusted partner, now reduced to nothing, more than a threat. His face twisted with rage when he saw her. "You," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "What do you think you're going to do? I told you you can't win." Jennifer didn't flinch. She was done with fear. She had fought too hard to get here, and she wasn't going to back down now. She stared him down, her voice firm and unwavering. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to end this. You're not going to hurt me or my daughter again. This ends tonight." His eyes flickered for a moment, unsure of how to react. The bravado he once had was gone, replaced by uncertainty. He had underestimated her, just as so many had before. "You think you can intimidate me?" he spat, stepping forward. But Jennifer didn't move. She stayed rooted, her posture solid and unyielding. "No," she said, her voice low but powerful. "I'm not trying to intimidate you. I'm trying to make you understand. You can't keep running from your past, and you can't use me as a pawn in your sick little game anymore." The silence in the warehouse was deafening, and for a moment, Jennifer felt the weight of everything she had been through. The years of struggle, the fear, the pain. But in this moment, all of that faded away. What mattered now was the truth. She had the power to control her own destiny, and she would never let anyone take that from her again. The man's expression darkened, but he didn't make a move. Instead, he turned and disappeared into the back of the warehouse, vanishing into the shadows. Jennifer stood still for a moment, not knowing if he was gone for good, but knowing in her heart that this was over. The fear, the uncertainty, They were all behind her now. She turned and left the warehouse, feeling the weight of everything finally lift from her shoulders. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She had already proven to herself that she was capable of overcoming the darkness. She had faced the worst, and she had come out on the other side stronger. As she drove home, the air felt different. Lighter somehow. The streets no longer seemed as daunting. The city no longer a place full of shadows. It was a place of possibility, of hope. And as she pulled into her driveway, she knew that she had won. She had faced her demons, and she had emerged victorious. When she stepped inside, Lily rushed to her, her face brightening as soon as she saw her mother. Jennifer knelt down and hugged her tightly. "It's over," she whispered. "We're safe." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she held onto her mother. "I knew you could do it." Jennifer smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. It had been a long road to get here, but they had made it. She had made it, and most importantly, they had each other. In that moment, as the sun began to rise over the horizon, Jennifer realized something profound. It wasn't the threats, the dangers, or the obstacles that had defined her. It was her resilience, her love for her daughter, and her ability to rise above every challenge. She had fought for them both, and in the process, she had found a strength she never knew she had. The darkness was gone, and in its place